Well, it finally rained. And if you live anywhere in South Texas, you know how important that sentence is. You know what that means. Because when you have been watching the sky for months, when you have been looking at the radar like it was the Super Bowl game, you know that when it finally rains, how much relief that brings. So here's what we got. In town, I measured between 3/4 and 5/8 of an inch. But out here at the ranch, we got 2.5 to 3.5 inches. Out here, it was a completely different story. The rainfall out here is extremely localized. So when we say we got rain, we have to say precisely where. And just like I said, one place might get 1 inch, and 20 miles down the road might get 4 inches. So when we say we got rain, we're always careful to say where. One of the things I noticed about the rain is that 24 hours after the rain had stopped, the wet weather creek that runs through our property was still flowing. This isn't a creek that runs all the time, and most of the year it's completely dry. But when the rain hits just right, water starts moving through it. And seeing water run across land that's been dry for weeks is a pretty satisfying sight. Because if you watched the last episode, you know we've been dealing with a very serious drought. Grass is basically non-existent. Our tanks were getting low. Some of them were completely dry. And I explained what a tank was last time. It's a dirt reservoir in the ground that collects rainwater and gives cattle and other livestock and wildlife a place to drink. Anyhow, when those dry up, you start paying very close attention to the sky. Rain like this does several important things. First, it recharges the tanks. Those ponds start filling again, which means cattle have natural water resources instead of relying only on troughs or water that's hauled in. Second, it wakes the grass back up. Even if the pasture looked dead last week, the seed and the roots from the grass are still there. You give them moisture and a little bit of warmth, and suddenly the land starts producing again. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't even magically appear the next morning. But what this rain does is set the stage. It softens the soil. It gives dormant plants a chance to start growing. And if we get a few more rains behind it, the entire pasture can change just in a matter of weeks. Ranching teaches you pretty quickly that you're not actually in control of most things. You can feed cattle, you can fix fences, and you can manage land the best you know how. But at the end of the day, the weather still makes a lot of decisions. And if you live out here, you know another thing happens when storms start rolling through. Everybody, and I mean everybody, suddenly becomes a meteorologist. Everyone, your neighbor, your cousin, the people on TikTok, the guy at the gas station. Suddenly, everyone is analyzing the weather like they work for the National Radar Service. And then there's the ritual of watching that radar blob. Nice. Whether it's green or red on your app, you know the one I'm talking about. You're staring at it on the radar map. You watch it slowly move towards you. And then you start negotiating with it. You start praying. You rain dance. Just keep coming. Don't split up on me. please don't break up right before it gets here, because storms in South Texas have a funny habit of doing exactly that. But this time it actually rained. You could hear it on the roof, you could smell it in the dirt. And for the first time in a while, the dust settled. Even the cattle seemed calmer now. Like they just knew things got a lot better. Now, rain doesn't mean we suddenly stop feeding the cows. Grass still needs time to grow. So we're still hauling hay, we're still running range cubes, we're still checking the cattle. But mentally, rain changes the mood of everything. One thing I'm learning through all of this is how closely ranching ties you to the land. You notice things that most people never think about. Soil moisture, grass height, grass existence, tank levels, creek flow, cloud patterns. Things that might seem small suddenly matter a lot. And this also makes me think about the 1950s drought, the one that so many farmers and ranchers in this area, refer back to, like it happened yesterday, like they cannot erase it from their mind's eye. Like it left a permanent impression on them. After that drought in the 50s, when rain finally came back, it meant survival. It meant a new chapter. It meant we don't have to suffer so badly anymore. And even though times are different now, that perspective still carries forward. Looking ahead, the good news is we still might be getting some more rain. And if we do, that's when things really start changing around here.
Call this the Wilson tree.
Because one rain helps. 2 rains start growing the grass. But 3 rains can completely change a pasture. So right now we're watching the sky again. We're watching the forecast, we're watching the radar, and hoping the clouds decide to cooperate. Because out here, rain changes everything. It gives the land a chance to recover. It gives the cattle better conditions. And it reminds you that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply wait. And when it finally comes, you appreciate every drop. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow, heart, thumbs up, all the things.